What's going on, guys? GCDC here, back with another Let's Talk. Today we'll be discussing the first issue of the all-new Thor comic series. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if many of you comic fans have picked up this Thor series, because Thor is a huge name in the Marvel Universe. I'm sure most of you comic fans know that the mighty Thor, Prince of Thunder, is no longer our quote-unquote Thor anymore. On the cover we see an all-new Lady Thor. One thing that hasn't changed though, or two things I should say, is the suit. However, now in a woman's size, and the famous blonde hair has not changed. Now the one thing I love about this change is that now the suit has added a new feature to it. We now see a mask added to the suit, which makes this Lady Thor look like total badass. So I've been waiting for this comic series to finally be released for quite some time, and it's off to a great start. The intensity is there and you can feel it while reading this first issue. I've always fancied Thor because he's like the Shazam of Marvel. Godlike powers, lightning, and there's really no limit to his except Shazam is a little immature due to being 18, and Thor is the Shakespeare of the current century. So what's Thor #1 about? In the beginning, we see a mini sub in the ocean and is being destroyed by something, yet we don't know what it is, yet. All we see is a giant hand. Going on, we see that Thor seems to be unworthy to hold Mjolnir, but how? That's the million-dollar question of the comic. How is the almighty Thor not able to wield his one true hammer anymore? And as a guardian crowd, including his closest friends, mourn for Thor. And they've never seen a prince so depressed and so dead inside. Thor hasn't slept, eaten, talked, or even stood up for quite some time. All day and night he tries to wield his hammer, yet unlike any other unworthy being, he is unable to even get it to nudge. Every person in the crowd has tried to lift it, even all at once as well, yet nothing happens. Then Odin steps in screaming his asshole off and says, "Step aside." Now for those that don't know, Odin can pick up the hammer whenever he wants, yet the hammer betrays even Odin. So why can't anybody lift the hammer up? Nobody knows. It can be a couple of reasons. One, dark magic is upon the hammer, or the hammer itself is being weird, or maybe someone is so damn worthy that only he or she may wield it, and that person alone. I'm saying that it's either dark magic or the someone is so worthy that blah blah blah. So why these? Because we obviously see the cover on this comic, and also we see that one of the main villains is Malekith, the Accursed. And yes, he is a dark magician villain, much like the Enchantress, but even Odin himself knows that the Enchantress can't place a spell on Mjolnir that powerful. Even just looking at Thor on his knees by his hammer is kind of sad to the reader. Then the comic goes on to show Thor obtaining a regular big axe looking weapon, trying to fight Malekith later on. The action in the comic is brief. The whole comic is pretty much Thor not being himself, then after being depressed, tries to be in a battle with one of the most powerful magicians in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, you go Thor, you go in and try that. And if you're wondering how he does in that battle, well, that's for you guys to check out. So going on, the action is like any other powerful hero or villain comic, bloody and graphic. So if you like a good bloody battle, go pick it up, unless you like the old boring crap. I also loved the artwork in this comic. I know that the series will be a good one due to the artists and authors making this series. The authors are pretty famous and have made other series pretty well. They did a good job on not making the characters not look like claymations, but more like you took a picture of someone and comic-sized it. It looks like pretty real for a comic, which of course makes it a lot more enjoyable to read, as everybody knows that, especially when it comes to designing the look on the Asgardians. Of course they made Odin look like the king with his wardrobe and the Santa Claus beard. Thor's closest friends look like themselves from the Thor movies that we recently watched, and Thor looks like, well, a good Thor, except his wardrobe is a little off. His upper body is exposed, though I don't know why, maybe because of his sorrows lately? So what I did like, yet kind of didn't like, was how the last page was when we see quote-unquote Lady Thor, for the first time and the last time of the comic. I think a way to approach this is maybe for the first issue, they could have showed her in a mini battle and other stuff. Then at the end of the first issue, have someone ask, how she was able to become who she is now, or ask what happened to the regular Thor. Then the last thing we could see is her drifting into her memories or mind. Then we start what we saw in the first issue in a second issue. But I also thought starting off the first issue as they did was necessary too, and most people would agree with that. I'm sure that the original Thor will make a comeback in the series, or at least fight by her side, yet not with his regular hammer anymore because she's obviously wielding it now. I'm sure they won't totally kill off Thor, but who knows? I mean, they did kill off Wolverine in the death of Wolverine, so we will see how it goes. I think having this new Thor will be interesting, as most people think too. Not only just because it's going from male to female, but because now we don't have some brawn guy with so much experience with that hammer and the power it possesses anymore, such as flight, the spinning of the hammer, and all the things that spinning the hammer allows people to do, and the power of lightning. We will see her try to master the powers given to her from wielding the hammer, the enemies that Thor had, and learn to defend herself even more, etc. It's going to be a fun experience to read this new Thor series, and who knows, maybe she will be a better Thor than Thor. I recommend buying this comic because you will see what I mean when I say that I can tell it will be a good series. Well, thanks guys for watching. Tune in next time for another Let's Talk, and I'll see you soon. Later, dudes.